Welcome to The Favorites, the podcast presented by Bet365. We are part of the Volume Podcast Network. I am Chad Millman of the Action Network. Today is our Tuesday divisional round episode. We will break down the lines for the best weekend of the NFL season. We will also discuss our exec decision and our Simon Says. Do not fret. Thursday, we will have the usual menu, foxhole, big balls, all that good stuff. We will also get into some totals, other bets we like, both today and on Thursday. Expand a little bit since we've only got 4 games. Live from our Tommy John home studios, I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my companion, my compadre, my BFF professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Chad. Yeah, we're looking this week to have a little bit of a bounce back, right? 3-3 on sides, and totals 5-1 to the under, which was great. But obviously, we know people come here for our sides pick. So yeah, hopefully we go above 500 this week.
Yeah, well, look, we were on the Rams yesterday as we were on the Bucks on Sunday night, and I'm not kidding. Matthew Stafford, when it looked like he had fumbled the ball, when they were up 10-3 and had been dominating, and the Vikings ran it back.
Yeah.
I immediately flashed back to Baker the night before. All-star quarterback, random fluke fumble in a game that they were dominating or starting to dominate. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This is happening 2 nights in a row. Did you feel that way?
A little bit, but it's also about, this is why playoffs are the best, right? It's this game of chess, and if your opponent makes this little mistake, that dictates the whole game, right? And that's what you're talking about there with Baker. So the Stafford play, I was never worried about it, but it also makes me just hate the quarterback position. It's just like that. Even Belichick, I don't know if you saw in the Manicast, he's just disgusted by it, and he's just like, only in the NFL would that be allowed to get away with that, right? Just a little shuffle pass, flick of the wrist at your receivers' ankles, basically. And yeah, I feel like we definitely got away with one on that play. But I think once you watch that whole game, we were never going to not cover that game. I mean, even if it was 10-10 at that point, I still think long-term the Rams would have won that game. That game really did. What we talk about all the time comes down to the quarterbacks, and Sam Darnold, back-to-back worst games of this season for him. So pretty brutal stretch for Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I saw that Stafford play in replay, and I thought to myself, that's why we like to bet Matthew Stafford. The guy knew where his receiver was going to be, and without even seeing it, did the veteran savvy move of backhanded flick of the wrist, got away with it. Exactly why we like Matthew Stafford. Love it.
I get why people get upset, because you definitely saw the ball moving and becoming loose when he flicked it.
Yeah,
Again, like you just said, super veteran play. Like he had enough on his fingertips to move it, but you definitely saw the ball leaving the palm of his hand when he got hit and it was moving. It was just like you just said, thank God for a veteran quarterback, because that is a guy who's been in the league a long time and is a savvy vet.
There's one other thing I wanted to ask you about before we get into the games. So good news, Mike Vrabel is back. We lost Doug Peterson last week. We get Mike Vrabel back this week. We love betting Vrabel, along with Tomlin, one of the best coaches to bet of the past 20 years, whether it's straight up as a dog or as a dog. He always had the Titans coming through for us. Now he's got a talented young QB, a lockdown corner, along with the Panthers. I cannot wait to start betting the Patriots next year. But in reality, off the top of your head, as we inch closer to offseason when we're starting to project these things, how much of a difference do you think it will make with Vrabel as a coach who has historically covered when you start evaluating the Patriots in the offseason?
You definitely are going to give them a 1.5 to 2 wins bump just because of Vrabel. And now you'll see what their offseason moves are, what their schedule is like, how people have them power rated, vice versa, your power ratings. And my initial thought was just, if they have hit on the quarterback position, they could become a juggernaut in a year or two. Like if they can draft right, we've seen it. If you hit on the quarterback, it shifts the whole confidence of the whole organization. It really is life changing. And then if you bring in the right coach, it's even more so, right? That's the key. And we've seen that this season where, Not that I had major questions about Dan Quinn, but I did. And he came in, he apparently adjusted. He became more of a team player coach, more of a player's guy. And, Jane Daniels obviously changed the organization. Bo Nix, Sean Payton changed that Denver organization. So, yeah, I saw some crazy stat. It was basically Jane Daniels was born in 2000. That was the last time the Miami Dolphins won a playoff game. So it just shows how it can just be hell if you don't have the right coach, the right quarterback in your organization. And if you do hit on it, it changes everything in just a year. So that's what's so cool about the NFL. The quarterback position is just such a special position.
Well, that's a great transition to my next question for you, which is on Sunday afternoon, my son was telling me about a bunch of different social handles that are playing this game where they're predicting which coaches are going to land where in the NFL.
Mm.
Every single one of them had the Bears getting Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh,
And
God.
this was before the McCarthy news. And then this morning, I read on ESPN.com, Dan Graziano was predicting based on the people he's spoken to, which coaches were going to land where. And he had Brian Flores going to the Bears. So if you're me, do you prefer Cliff Kingsbury, Mike McCarthy, or Brian Flores? Do we prefer falling off the cliff in November? Do we prefer not winning in the playoffs? Do we prefer a coach who is already potentially or could have ruined a franchise quarterback?
Only reason I would go Cliff is because you just want the offensive guy when you have the quarterback like you do. Like the defensive mentality, even if you bring in the right coordinator, like a Ben Johnson, he's not going to be there for a long haul. He'll eventually leave for the next better opportunity, the offensive coordinator. So to me, you want to get the offensive mind with the quarterback that you guys have. And that makes me so sad to hear. Like, again, we like and respect Brian Flores. I don't know if you saw Ryan Fitzpatrick talking about him. It's like,
Yeah.
this man has to stay in disgust for this guy years and years later. And, he was the one that was treated well by Brian Flores. He wasn't even the Tua in the relationship. So, yeah, man, I feel bad for you, Chad. It's just tough being a Bears fan. And I mean, this sounds crazy to say, but yeah, my mentality of it would be I would hope they would just go offensive. And I get why people love Brian Flores. What he's done with that Vikings defense has been incredible. But, I can't see that working well, especially the personalities of him being the old school guy, whereas Caleb is the definition of new wave Gen Z, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't see that working well. So yeah, for you, I know it's painful because we just don't trust the guy at all, but Kingsbury, I guess, would be the best fit.
It's been an interesting experience going through this with my son. It's like the first time he's feeling invested in who the Bears hire as a coach
Welcome to
because
hell, brother.
right, because
Yeah,
the Bears have Caleb. And so
right.
it feels like we have an opportunity. And, the last time we hired a coach, Eberflus, like we didn't really have high expectations. And so he's feeling it and he's texting me when he should be paying attention to whatever class he's in about the latest thing he's hearing about the Bears coaching search. And I just keep saying to him, imagine the worst possible resolution and then make it worse. If there is a coach out there who's not on the radar, the Bears can hire. They can hire my high school football coach, not my coach, but the guy who coached my high school football team. They'll find a way to make it look like it's the exact right decision when we all know it's not. So I'm just trying to tempering his expectations. And even last night, we were talking about it. I'm like, I just don't think you get it. I don't think you get how painful and horrible this is going to be. I'm sorry for you.
And your division, right? Like you're coming into a division with Dan Campbell, LaFleur, and KOC, and it's like, man, you really do need to hit on someone here because you guys are lagging in that category by a mile.
The things we do to our children. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. And now, new Bet365 customers get $150 in bonus bets. When you bet $5, sign up using promo code Favorites, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. 4 games to get through. 4 sides, 4 totals, anything else that comes up. The best football weekend during the NFL season. We love the divisional playoffs. Houston at Kansas City, first game on the board, Saturday afternoon. Kansas City's an 8-point favorite at Bet365. The total was 41.5. The line has moved within a very specific, narrow band. It opened at 7.5, got bet up to 8.5, down to 8, 7.5 in a lot of spots. The elephant in the room, Mahomes is a favorite of more than 3, being a historically bad bet, versus the combo of home teams and favorites this season and during the wild card being the right side. These teams did play each other about 3 weeks ago. They played on the 21st of December. The line was 3.5. Simon, I'm going to dig deeper into what we did in that game. But if you're looking at this and it's 8, it's 7.5, a difference of 4 points from the last time they played at home for Kansas City, what do you see here?
Yeah, and this is honestly because it is the playoffs to me, Chad, that the books will adjust this way because we know it's just different. And it's the same thing with my model. My model has this as great value on Houston, right? And it's just because it simply doesn't understand the Mahomes factor. We talked about that last year. I had the 49ers as favorites in the Super Bowl, but I still bet the Chiefs. I had the Eagles, unfortunately, as the favorite in the Super Bowl, and I went against it. And I learned that lesson pretty hard that day. It's just like these models, it's like the Tom Brady effect. They just can't compute the Mahomes. And what that just does to the guys on the other sideline, right? We always talk about that. The guys on the other sideline looking across at Mahomes, especially in the playoffs. It's different. You know that killer is across the field, and he's coming for you. So, yeah, in a normal regular season, Chad, we would be hammering the Texans here. It's CJ as a huge dog against Mahomes, who plays with his food. But that changes in the playoffs. So we talked about it a little bit on Sunday night. If you do want to take a position on Houston, I'm not doing it, but I'm saying if you do, Chad gave it out. I believe it was 5.5, 6 first half on the Houston number. Take it. Houston, I think they're, what, Evan, are they 14-3 or 15-2 this season, first half against the spread? Incredible. They've been incredible. And we've seen the Chiefs do come out slow. I personally just can't do it. Like, I'm even thinking about it right now. I'm getting visions of them in Arrowhead. It's 25 degrees, and it's just Mahomes' first drive touchdown, 14-4 against the first half. So Houston's just been incredible at the first half. And yeah, this is an interesting number in the fact that you've seen a lot of these numbers get bumped up because it is what the sports books need to do. They need to protect against the moneyline parlays and the teasers. And when this number opened 7.5, that to me was right. Like I said, my model has this at 7, so it's like, okay, it's up a 0.5 point for people doing the 7-point teaser or doing the 6-point teasers, right? They're still getting the key number. Now that it is up to 8.5, you know, that's crossed a bunch of key numbers at this point. This is now, if you do teaser, this is at 2.5, which is still value, but it's also a reason I could still see this keep going up. I could still see the books keep moving this just because the pros that are going to bet Houston, I don't know why they'd rush to bet it. It's the same thing we're going to talk about this week. Like, if you like the dogs, you kind of can be patient at this point because the numbers have basically moved to where they're going to be at this point. Like, they might keep going up because of public money and some professional money. They do like the favorites, but yeah, this spot for me, it's crazy to look back on last week. I should have went 6-0 on those unders. The only under I didn't hit was that fluke Houston Chargers game, which was like the stupidest over. Like, it really killed me too because that was the start of the week, and it was just like, oh God, if I made a huge mistake betting these unders, if we got such bullshit like that. No, you got to trust the numbers. And right here, most people are going to know if they break it down. It's, if you look at these totals, and especially this game, this is going to be the lowest total of the week, right? I think it's already down to 42 at a lot of books. That's because we saw it last week. Houston has great pass rush. We know that the Chiefs have struggles on the offensive line. On the flip side, it's Spags in the playoffs. It's Spags at home in the playoffs. Like, the Chiefs dominate, unless it's Josh Allen, they dominate teams at home in this exact spot defensively. So, yeah, if you're looking for my early sides right now on Tuesday, like the Chiefs at this number, I'd bet it up to 9, 10. Once it gets to 10, that's when I stop. But at this number, I still feel confident in Mahomes. Just closing out this Houston team that they got away with one last week, and I do get people's view on this, taking CJ in this exact spot. I can't say a bad word about it because it is the professional sharp side. But to me, it's like, at what point does the number make sense? At 9.5, 10, I can be talking to Houston at that point. But at 9 and below, I think the value is still in this Chiefs team.
So when they played on the 21st and the line was 3.5, to me, that was about up to that point. The Chiefs had been winning games by 1 point, 2 point, 3 points. They'd also been playing sort of with one arm tied behind their back in terms of the weapons, right? They were missing Jalen Watson on defense at cornerback. And we talked about this on the show a bunch. When Spags runs his offense or his defense, he really needs to have great coverage in the secondary. Well, it's possible Jalen Watson is coming back this week. They were playing, obviously, all season without Hollywood Brown. They played most of the season and were just getting DeAndre Hopkins into rhythm in the latter half of the year. Isaiah Pacheco, that was one of his first games.
That's me, one of the biggest things. Like,
Yeah,
getting
and that was
Pacheco
one of his
back.
first games back, right? So in the latter half of the year, forget about the Broncos game. In the 3 games before the Broncos game, when they sat everybody, they were favorites on the road against the Browns. Normally, you'd automatically want to fade the Chiefs in that spot. They won 21-7. The next week, they're 3.5-point favorites at home against the Texans. Again, historically, you want to fade Patrick Mahomes as more than a 3-point favorite. And they're going against a good defense and a good quarterback who struggled, but still a good quarterback. They win by 17 points. The next weekend, they're on the road again, 2-point favorites against the Steelers. It's a spot you want to smash. Mike Tomlin at home, rah. They cover with ease. So at some point, and we bet, by the way, we did bet. I went back and looked. We bet the Chiefs against the Texans when they were 3.5-point favorites because we were starting to feel like this was a team that was coming into its own and through the hard phase and realizing how they were going to play once they got to the playoffs. I'm glad you're saying the Chiefs because I wanted to bet the Chiefs and I needed a little bit of reassurance.
Another way, I wanted to bet Houston, honestly, coming into it, and I was like trying to find reasons, even looking for trends. I'll have to wait and see if Evans finds any better ones about why you should back Houston. But my biggest one was just, man, this feels like you're getting free points here because of these teasers and these parlays. But we talk all the time, like there's certain numbers that do make sense, and when you really dive into the numbers that back it up, and it's like, man, that Houston team, they definitely got away with one last week, and that's gonna be a theme this week about certain teams that are a little inflated, overrated from their previous week, and it feels like that might be here with Houston because I thought this would just be all Chiefs money, and we've had 2 days now, and I've talked to a bunch of different bookmakers, not just here in Jersey, a couple guys in PA, and it's plenty of Houston money at this point. So I think the public is still in the perspective of this Chiefs team is not this juggernaut 1 seed, where I'm the other way. I'm like, this is one of the best runs we've ever seen, one of the best organizations, and they just always get better as the season goes along. And you just laid it out for people. Like, you saw a turn as they've gotten back, these guys on offense have gotten healthy, that they can, if they want to, run up the score on these teams. And we've seen the playoffs, they don't take their foot off the gas. Like, Andy Reid leans into it and tries to dominate these teams, especially at home.
It feels weird to say people are sleeping on them, a 15-win, 2-time defending champ, number 1 seed, but all of the attention is on Buffalo and Baltimore. And the one thing I think about with this defense that the Texans have, and everyone gets excited about Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson and how many sacks they had against the Chiefs and against the Chargers and what they did during the year. And I just think to myself, Patrick Mahomes is so hard to sack. They've had a bad left tackle the entire season, and they figured out how to manage it, including the last few weeks when they just moved Joe Thuney out there. Patrick Mahomes on 3rd down knows exactly when to run. He is so frustrating to try to defend. I think he breaks your spirit. I really do. It's a big number. I'm not afraid of it. It's not a Simon Says. It's not an exec decision, but we're leaning the Chiefs here. And it seems to me, you mentioned the under, it's 41 and a half. That is the lowest total. The next one is 43 and a half for the Eagles and Rams. I don't really have a strong opinion on the total here.
I guess it depends on your book you're looking at. What are you looking at, Bet365?
Yeah.
Because,
I'm looking at our sponsor's book.
I mean, in Jersey, there's Bet365 is 42. But if you shop around, there is a 42 and a half out there at a very public book. But yeah, so that's literally come down while we've done the show. Like before we hopped on, there's a bunch of 42 and a halves, 42 out there. Now, you're right. It's moving people. It's moving down to 41 and a half at a lot of books.
It's interesting because it might have been at 41 and a half yesterday. But I just looked this morning and it was 40. What must have gone up at Bet365 at least. Huh. Anyways, all right, 42. We'll call it 42. But do we like the under?
I like it, but it's starting to move through key numbers at this point. Like the edge is like incredibly small now. I mean, I literally have this game at 41. So like, yeah, do I like it at 41 and a half? Sure. But yeah, we're losing a little bit of value there with the big money coming in, moving this number down.
Washington at Detroit. Detroit is a 9.5 point favorite. The total is 55 and a half. This is the primetime game on Saturday night. My first instinct on this, holy moly, this is a huge number.
Yeah, Simon Says, give me Washington plus 9.5, Chad. This is an insane number. What is this number? Is this us overreacting too much to last week and Janie Daniels? I don't think it is. All the praise he's getting. I mean, I think Evan had this amazing tweet that went viral, right, Ev? It was him and Peyton Manning being the only guys ever in the playoffs to basically not punt. There was something crazy like that in their first start. I don't know. It's the Jane Daniels thing to me. Yeah, 0 punts, 0 turnovers on the road. Only him and Peyton Manning have ever done that in the playoffs. So yeah, we're like we said, we're seeing something special here. But me and you talked about it a little bit. That was Baker's game that he blew. Like,
yeah,
his defense, Tampa did make stops on fourth down, right? And we talked about the regression that was coming for Washington. It showed up. They did have the regression on the fourth down, and they got the stops. And, you know, there was a bunch of different times that Baker could have taken a lead by 4 points, right? They had that 4-point lead. He fumbles.
Dude, they should have won this game by double digits. Like, honest to God, as well as Jaden played, he ran, he threw, he converted, at least outside of the red zone.
Yeah.
But it was 17-13. The Bucs had just stopped the Commanders in the red zone on fourth down from the goal line. And they were starting to dominate that game. Bucky Irving was starting to dominate that game. Baker was finding Mike Evans whenever he wanted Mike Evans, to the point where they had to take Marshawn Lattimore off of Mike Evans to start double teaming him. They were going to go up 24-13 when they got the ball back and Baker fumbled. Like, the defense mainly looked good for the Commanders because the Commanders' offense engineered so many long freaking drives. The time of possession was 11 minutes in Washington's favor, and they had 25 more plays. If you dig into the stats on this game, Baker was 15 of 18 with the yards per attempt of 9.5. Like, what worries me about this is, what is Jared Goff going to do to this defense?
I mean, he might do well. Honestly, though, the fear for me is the running game. That's why I think this number makes sense when it's moved so high above 7. Again, once again, protecting against teasers and everything like that. This is going to be in everyone's parlay. Why would, like Chad just is breaking it down to you, why would Detroit lose this game, right? They are arguably the best running team of football going against a Commanders team that, I mean, we know the deal. They can't stop the run. Like you said, they did really well early on stopping Bucky. But once the game gets into the second half and they're worn out, that front line, you can run the ball in Washington. Now, you know, we're in a different stratosphere at this point, especially if, you know, Montgomery's back. I mean,
Montgomery's
him and Gibbs,
supposed to be back, yeah.
Yeah, it's the ultimate combo. So that's why I understand the move. But to me, it's really all about the fourth downs. And that's what I'm banking on here, betting this number, where this game is basically going to come down to both sides and what they can do on fourth downs. And, you know, Jaden Daniels, there's no one on Detroit's front seven that can stay with him and stop him. Like, they don't have that X factor that can slow him down and kind of change the game with what we've seen Jane Daniels do, which is he's so cool, calm, and collective. You know exactly when to run, when to make the right pass, when to make the right read. And, you know, we knew going to that game that whoever made the mistake was going to lose. He was the vet in that game, right? Like you just said, Baker with that fumble was stupid, but the really dumb boneheaded play by Baker was him trying to run the ball himself instead of hand it off to Bucky and get stopped on that short, what was
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
2nd and 1 or 3rd and 1, and then they get stuffed the next play.
Right. And the next play, the center snapped it
Right. No
before
one else was
anybody was
ready.
ready. And
Yeah.
so the whole thing was blown up.
And like, again, that's a veteran team making those stupid mistakes in clutch moments. On the flip side, Jane Daniels, once again, 2-minute drill, drove the field, whatever that was, 4 minutes left in the game, ate all the clock up, perfect drive, sealed it with a field goal. It's, you know, we talk all the time. There's just certain guys that you never seen it before, and you have to adjust to it. And like Chad just said, he got lucky, Jane Daniels. He put his team in the best position, but we just broke it down. Baker lost that game. He was all set up for Baker on multiple times to either close the game out or go up 2 scores and kind of put the nail in the dagger, right? End that game and nail in the coffin and end that game. And, you know, he just didn't do it. On the flip side, as much respect as we do have for this Detroit team, I mean, this is going to shock people. I actually like the over 2 in this game. It's 55. It's a huge over. But this just, everything about this game just screams shootout. Like, there's nothing defensively. I know people are like, well, look at their last game against the Vikings. Aren't we all in agreement that was more about Sam Darnold than anything else? Even if you break down that film,
Right.
he had guys open. And, you know, that Jane Daniels ain't going to miss those throws, I don't think. This kid is just so poised. And, you know, the pros I talk to that are betting against him in this spot, the reasoning is sound, right? It's really relying on that offense of Detroit and the fact that they're betting on what we bet on last week, which was 4th down regression from that team in Washington, which, you know, we know it's going to happen. Me and Chad are ready for that. But I also think, you know, what he did last week, what were they 60%, Evan, on 4th down last week? But that feels right rather than, I think they're 80% or something above that for the whole season. Like 60% makes more sense. That's how special Jane Daniels is. So, yeah, for me in this matchup, Chad, I know it's crazy, but of all the games this week, this one feels like not the most inflated line, but it really does of all the lines. Like, this is the one that doesn't seem right to me at all. And, you know, the fact that you can get Jane Daniels right now at plus 380, plus 400, a couple of books straight up to win this game. How do I not bet that? Like, there is value there facing this Detroit team that has had issues stopping really high-powered offenses. And we've seen, you know, the Lions are incredible. The one game most recently they did lose to Josh Allen was a shootout. I think it was 48-42. And that's my vision. If me and you are betting this Washington team, we think they can pull the upset off, that's where we're going to need this to be. It's going to be a 40-33, 40-35 type of win for this Jane Daniels team. So, yeah, I know it's a lot to put on this rookie, but he's just different, and we've talked about it. So, you know, could be eating my words come next week, next Tuesday, if he just gets absolutely rolled in this matchup. But I just, after watching him back-to-back starts now against my own team now in the playoffs, and it's just his confidence and his poise, especially to close these games out, I have to come to terms with this kid is a unique freak, and he's just one of a kind. So, to me, this is a disrespectful line of Jane Daniels, and you know, I feel like we're getting a ton of value here just because there is so much love and respect for this Lions team, Chad.
I'm really surprised to hear this all from you. Not that you don't like the Lions at 9.5, but that the Commanders would be your Simon Says with a rookie quarterback.
Well, you did
on
take the Eagles.
What's that?
I said you did take the Eagles, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just it's a hard one to swallow. It really is.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, again, because we love the Lions. We've loved them all season, Chad. I mean, deep down, do I really want them to lose here? No. This is the sleeper team for me, just like Buffalo, that I want to win the Super Bowl. Their fans deserve it. But when you go through the numbers, it's like they couldn't have picked a more trap team for this Detroit team. Like, everything they can do offensively in Washington is going to give major problems to this Detroit defense. And this is the dream scenario for me, like a high scoring playoff game, total of 55. I love it. And I love that I'm taking the over here because you know me, I love under, especially when it's above 50, but not this one. Indoors track meet between these two teams. I can't wait. You're never going to feel comfortable either what side you're on this entire game. I could see Detroit getting up by 17 at one point, and we're still going to be like, you know what? We got a chance, Chad. We got a chance covering this big
Well,
number.
that's the thing. It's like the number is so big, and Jaden Daniels is such a wild card that and they do go for it so frequently on fourth down, the variance is just so much higher. Like the chance to score a lot of points is going to be there. I was not like immediately when I saw this 55.5, I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to be on the under in this game. Um, and so this is this is like the alternative, the opposite day. Simon taking the huge rookie underdog and the huge over. Fascinating.
It's got to be a lot for me to take it over because I always want to take under. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I really do have a vision for this game, and I'm hoping it pans out that way.
Los Angeles Rams at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are 6-point favorites. The total is 43.5. This is the Sunday afternoon game. It opened at 5.5. It's bumped up to 6. Executive decision. Eagles.
Let's go.
It's like what I don't get is on November 24th, the Eagles were 3-point favorites on the road in LA. So obviously we realize home field means a lot less in the NFL this year. But what bookmakers are basically saying by making this game 6 in Philly after making it 3 in LA is that LA's home field is 0. There is no advantage to playing in LA. There is not even from a crowd perspective, forget it. There's no advantage to practicing all week at home, to being in your bed until Saturday night, to not traveling. Like there's not even a 1-point advantage for the Rams to play in LA. That to me is what bookmakers are saying in this game.
Yeah, I wouldn't overreact to it too much, though. It's also it's week to week with bookmakers, right? They're making it the lines for that week. They don't really think about the previous line and where the value was in that for home field. And to me, as someone that had Green Bay power rated just a little higher and a higher grade, yeah, I have this line at 6.5, so it's only a half-point difference than what I had graded on Green Bay. But I also think my model and everything else is kind of underrated in this Eagles team, which we can dive into here, of the sense that, it feels like a lot of pros right now are rating this Rams team. And I think it is because of their model. And, we saw them come in heavy on the 6.5 when it opened on this Rams team. And the bookmakers, like you said, immediately moved to 5.5, took some Eagles money, bumped it up to 6, and now they're moving a couple books are back up to 6.5. So it could be the sense of the public and the pros early on were thinking, that's great value on the Eagles. And me and you are hoping they're going to get caught here, because I'm with you. I love this Eagles team. I think this is what we love in the playoffs, of team in first round doesn't look that good because of expectations, and people hold that against them the next round. And a team that people didn't think were going to win or be that good gets a little overrated because of what they did in the previous game. And I think we both have the same view of that Vikings game, that yes, that first drive by Stafford, vintage Stafford. I thought they were going to win that 35-10 or something like that. He was just going to
pretty close.
Yeah, put up a ton of points. But when you go into it, that offense, take away the defensive touchdown, they put up 20 points against that Vikings defense, in which they should have dominated. Like, they had that team on their heels basically the whole game. They had a good field position basically the whole game, because they had sacked Darnold about 9 times in that game and had a bunch of turnovers. So you dive into the numbers. Is Higbee really that important to the Rams? Because those first 2 drives, when he was in there, they looked incredible, moving the ball.
5 targets, 5 catches.
Yeah. And then he leaves, and it kind of falls apart. Puka had 9 targets. He had 5 catches for 44 yards. Cooper Kupp, what has happened to Cooper Kupp? Like, I mean, there's tons of jokes going around the internet, but I don't know what the hell is real, what's going on there. But he had 1 catch for 29 yards, Cooper Kupp, in that game. That's bizarre. It
was a great catch, though.
Yeah, it was a great catch. But it's just bizarre where it's like something is off. We talked about going into this. Something's been off about Stafford and this offense for weeks now. And they have, coming in these playoffs, they had moved to a defensive team. So maybe I am underrating their defense too much, but I do think that was just about Sam Darnold. Like, the dude was holding on to the ball for over 4 or 5 seconds in his pocket. Me and you have watched him all season. Hell, I lost so much money on him early in the year. I was obsessed with Sam Darnold watching that offense. And I did move. I turned it around and gave them a ton of credit. But that Sam Darnold we saw these last 2 weeks, that's what I thought the season was going to be with him. Like this guy who holds onto the ball too long. He's indecisive in the pocket. He is not comfortable in the read and reading the offense. That was not him for this season. He was so comfortable, so confident in a pass-heavy offense. You know, we just what happened these last 2 games is bizarre, and we talk all the time. That's the mental side of football, right? And we see that especially here with Sam Darnold. And we do want to give credit to the Rams defense. They did play really well. The Eagles are a different beast, and now you have they weren't even home, right? They were in Arizona, so they have to fly home on Monday, back to LA on a short week now, fly out east to come play in Philly in what's going to be a 30 degrees game that starts at 3 p.m. So it's going to end up being a night game at one point. And, you know, that's not the best spot for Stafford in these exact situations. I mean, if you go through even this season, not that they've had an easy schedule, but he never really had to play outdoors in the cold in basically any game this year. And I still think in my mind too, I came to the season thinking I had Stafford from years past. We've just seen it's just different. Like Stafford is not the guy he was of the past. And they are a different offense, and they want to be a run-heavy, run-first type of team with Williams, which makes sense, right? That's part of their identity. But we've seen these 2 teams play earlier this year. Eagles, you know, they put up 37. I know if you look back, you see the Rams put up 20. One of that last touchdown they scored in the final minute. It really was 37-12. Like that was not by any metric even that close of a game in any way. So I do think the publics are rating it, and it's just a great matchup once again for this Eagles team. Like if they want to lean on the run here, they can do it. This is a very young, very talented front line of the Rams. Well, they are very young. And we've seen they struggle against really good run-dominant teams this season. So, for me, if this was in LA, indoors, I probably would have a different grade on this number. But the fact that we're getting the Eagles at home in this exact spot, I just love the Eagles' defense to roll. And shocking, another game, I like the under here. I just can't see the Rams putting up any type of points. And Eagles, to me, will just be run-heavy. I know people don't want to hear that. They want to hear Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 25, 30 times, but there's going to be no need for it in this matchup. You just got to lean on your strength here with the run game. And this just feels like another 25-10, 24-10 type of win for this Eagles team. It's just, I just can't see how the Rams put up multiple good drives against this Eagles defense, where the Eagles' strength is that secondary. And that's, to me, that's the strength of this Rams team with Cooper and Puka. And it's just not been that way this later half of the season. So, yeah, I'm with Chad here. I love this Eagles. I honestly would bet it up to 7. So even if you're like my only book is only showing 6.5, I still would take that number. I still think there's value there. But we just talked about it. If you want to do teasers, there's plenty of good options this week to tease as well.
Rams had one cold game this year. I don't know if you remember it. I do. It was the New York Jets. And I believe we were on the Jets.
And the under. That was a good under game.
And it was the game, I think, where Jeff Ulbrich consistently went for it on 4th down in a game where it was clear.
From his own 30, points, right? I do remember that.
Yeah, yes. Any number. If he had 12 points, he was going to win the game. And, of course, he went for it on 4th down at every opportunity, including on his own 30, and they end up losing. The numbers the last time the Eagles played the Rams, freakish.
Yeah.
481 total yards, 7 yards per play. The Eagles had 5 sacks. Don't forget, that was the game Saquon ran for 255 yards. I am not going to be fooled by the Rams' dominance against the Vikings when the Eagles are so physically dominant. Their offensive line is not the Vikings' offensive line. Their defensive line, as good as the Vikings' defense is not the Vikings' defensive line. These are physical, aggressive, really powerful line of scrimmage opportunities for the Eagles to dominate.
Yeah, and amazing stat from Evan. Stafford's only outdoor game, 40 degrees or colder since 2021. So 2021, that Jets game. So, he just never plays outdoors in the cold. And Chad just broke that game down. If you go back and watch that Jets game, they won that game 30 different ways. They basically were the offense for the Rams team, basically just giving them short fields time and time again. They're not going to have that same scenario here against this Eagles team, who is well coached, doesn't do stupid plays like that. And, as you just broke it down, they have gotten better, this Rams team, defensively, but you have to go back and look at the competition they did it against. Now they're going against arguably the best run team in football with the best pass defense in football. And it's just a really perfect matchup for this Eagles team, honestly. Like, I personally, as an Eagles fan, wanted Sam Darnold, but after watching that Rams game, I'm just as happy getting them. They're just, I don't think they're the same team as they were even 2 years ago, right? They're just, I think Stafford's in a much different stage of his career.
A.J. Brown even had 100 yards and a touchdown in that game. It's the last time he was truly inspired. Boom, boom, bam. Simon, a lot of things went sideways over the weekend. Coaching mishaps, bad calls by officials, Kansas City being given a bye week. But the biggest impact on performance was simple: comfort levels. The Bills and Ravens looked incredibly comfortable and rolled to victory. And just last night, the Rams made Sam Darnold almost criminally uncomfortable, and it was a disaster. Because when you're not comfortable, you can't do anything properly. Our friends at Tommy John don't need to be on the headsets, and they don't need to check the replay to see professional level comfort. And with a special sale for our listeners, you can enjoy the comfort Simon and I experience from head to toe. Join the comfortable men and women who've left thousands of 5-star reviews raving about Tommy John as they enjoy maximum comfort. Simon, why will you be wearing more Tommy John in 2025?
Because comfort is king.
Right now, you can shop TommyJohn.com/favorites and get 25% off your first order. Save 25% at TommyJohn.com/favorites. That's TommyJohn.com/favorites. I saved the best for last. Baltimore at Buffalo. Depending on where you look, Buffalo is a 1-point favorite, and the total is 51.5. This game is at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Sunday night. It's all over the place, though. Some places have the Bills -1, other places the Ravens -1. I've seen the Bills as high as +1.5. On Sunday night, producer Gifford was very upset after the show because he thought you and I were fighting when you said you liked the Bills, and I thought it was overreacting to the Bills' victory. And so, are we still fighting? Who do we trust the most in this game, Lamar or Josh?
No, I think the line's been drawn in the sand. You think Lamar's MVP. I think Josh Allen's MVP. You love this Ravens team. I love this Bills team. There's no fighting. We're just two men with two different opinions, and someone's going to be right, someone's going to be wrong. Chad, I'm seeing basically every book has the Ravens as a favorite. So
yeah, it's possible it's updated. Like to be fair, I got caught up doing something before the show began. Normally, I'm checking all the lines right before we come on, and the last time I checked them was like 10 o'clock this morning. So it's very possible that right now the Bills are no longer the favorite, and they are now an underdog of 1.
Yeah, you're a squirrel. You're foraging for nuts before the show. I get it, but this line is.
Here's the truth: I am starving, and I didn't eat before the show, and it was a mistake.
No, I never eat before the show. You think better when you're hungry. It's true.
Is it true?
It is. Looking at this line, honestly, Chad, I told you this is what was going to happen. I really knew that this was going to flip just because I know you thought the public was overreacting to the Bills game, but in my mind, it was like they're going to overreact to that Ravens game. Like that was, I mean, Derrick Henry just looks like the ultimate game changer. Like that. People in their mind are going to say this is what Lamar needed to get him over the hump of a Josh Allen or the Chiefs, right? This is the difference. You got Derrick Henry, the ultimate game changer. Him and Lamar are the 1-2 punch. And I mean, you touched on it a little bit. You said to me, aren't you scared that the Bills won't be able to stop it? Yeah, of course. Like, I mean, if you go back and watch the first time they played, I think the first carry or whatever it was might have been the first quarter. Like Derrick Henry was busting this insane run for a touchdown, just grown man shit. And I get where you're coming from with this Ravens team, and public and professionals agree with you. We've seen this number flip now because so much money has come in on this Ravens team, and this is exactly where I want to be. I'm getting now the Bills as a home dog. This is what I wanted, and nothing's changed for me. It's like this is the exact spot. Like this Bills locker room being told they're a dog here. Josh Allen being a home dog. Evan, or maybe it was Matt Mitchell in our Slack was talking in our Slack that this is the first time since 1970 the Bills are a home dog in the playoffs. It's
first time. I think Matt Mitchell put this in the chat. Isn't this the first time they've ever been a home dog in the playoffs? Ever?
No, I just told you since 1970.
I know, but I think that's the beginning of their
right
playoff run.
That's their first home playoff game, I believe.
Yeah.
So this is pretty special, unique opportunity here, Chad. And does Lamar deserve that type of respect? Yes. We just broke it down. This man might be the 3-time MVP.
Should be.
He's got arguably the best running back or second best running back in all of football in Derrick Henry. And, we talk, they have all pros across the defense. Like, Raekwon and Hamilton are just the ultimate combo for that defense. And, we've seen them now in this second half really make a huge adjustment and just get so much better. But I told you, I just can't get over the fact that if Josh Allen has the ball and the opportunity to go win this game, I have the ultimate faith of him in this exact spot where Lamar, Chad, I just do not. I do not. If he needs to have a final drive to make, a winner-take-all type of moment for Lamar in this playoff in this spot, I just don't have the faith in him. So this one really is tough because the number, you can throw it out, right? We both know it's like 1.5. If this game does come down to one team winning by 1, I'll eat my fucking words. But this game feels like, either a field goal to a touchdown type of win where it's going to be one team kind of dominating, the other team kind of getting a late drive or a backdoor here. And when I really dive into it, yes, the numbers are not great for this Bills team, especially against a type of team that this Ravens team is. But I just keep going back to the fact that it's Josh Allen as a home dog in this exact spot. And if you look at the action app, no one believes in them. It's all the money, all the tickets right now are all Baltimore. So I just love this spot. This just feels like the perfect spot to back the Bills. And my dream scenario where Bills win big, dominate, Chiefs look bad. They go to Kansas City as somehow a road favorite, and Mahomes is a home dog in Arrowhead. Like, that's my dream setup right now if you're trying to get there with this Chiefs team. So, I can't believe that they are up to +1.5, this Bills team right now as a home dog. So I can't help it, Chad. It just moved too much.
It makes no sense to bet them at 1. Like, you might as well bet them on the money line, right?
Yeah, we're like we talk all the time. Like if you are scared off by the number, it's a good tease number. Now you can get them up to 7, or if you do a 6.5 point teaser, you get up to 7.5. So, like I said though, on Sunday night, I could easily be flipped on this game if the had gone what Chad thought. What do you think? The Bills would be a 2-point favorite at this point, or something like that?
Well, I think it was 1.5 when we spoke. They had been 2. And I thought it might go back to 2 because I thought people would overreact to the Bills.
And to me, that would have been great because then we were getting Lamar across a key number of 2, and that's where I would have been happy. So to me, this is all about the number and who I have trust in. And these are the best games because it is a game where, not that my model can't figure this one out, but it's like, you got to throw it out. This is the most human part of sports betting at this point because it is, who do you trust? Which quarterback do you trust at the end of this game? And you want to dive into all the numbers, I'm telling you people, I dove into all of it. It favors a team that has 6 All-Pros on it in Baltimore. Like, there's a reason this team is an absolute juggernaut, where the Bills, they were left for dead. That's why, again, I want to give MVP to Josh Allen. They don't have that across. They don't have a bunch of studs across the board, right? They're a team that has just been thrown together and it works like that. I can't wait to go in the offseason and really break down it. Was the offensive line dominant for the Bills, or was that once again all Josh Allen? Because how great they are now running down teams' throats at the end of games, how Josh Allen never takes sacks. it's just been incredible how this nameless front line of this Bills offense has done it. And we're on the flip side, Ravens do the same thing. They're a nameless offensive line. They've been dominant all season. So, yeah, this is, in my opinion, probably the best game we're going to get in the playoffs until the Super Bowl. Like, it doesn't get much better than this. These are two teams that, Chad even said at the top of the show, like, no one's talking about the Chiefs. Everyone's talking about Bills or Ravens Super Bowl at this point. So, I love it. This is my favorite part about betting playoff football.
You are very fired up about this game.
It's the best.
And I am it feels suckerish to be betting the Ravens right now.
It is, but sucker's been winning this year, brother.
I know.
Don't let that scare you off.
I know.
I mean, being a sucker has been paying big this year.
Part of me feels like I'm waiting to bet this game live because whoever scores the first touchdown, the other team is likely to be an underdog of more than one.
But these teams are who they are, Chad, where the Ravens, I mean, Stucky's bet, it feels like every week is him giving us Ravens first half.
Right.
And it's been me banging you over the head about doesn't matter what the score is, you take Josh Allen the second half. He's just been, it's been incredible. I think that's another Evan stat, right? Is he 15-2 Evan second half against the spread? It's something insane like that this season. So that to me is the biggest thing here, where it's like, that's another reason I have confidence in Josh Allen. If this game is Ravens 13, Bills 10 at half, Chad, I honestly think you're dead. You're dead if you have the Ravens. If this is Ravens by 2 scores, if they're up by 10 at half, I think that's your best chance at somehow pulling off this win if you're the Ravens team. Because to me, if this is 3 points or less, Josh Allen's going to get them the second half. He's just been so dominant, and the adjustments defensively by this Bills team has been great in the second half. So that's why I do love this matchup for this Bills team.
Ravens are minus half a point first half.
Can't beat that value. That's good value.
That feels like a good one to play, right?
Yeah, that's nice. Because I thought they would give them the bump that Lamar gets in these first halves. Like, even if he's not a big favorite in a game, a lot of times they've just been hanging 2.5, 3 first half just because he's been that dominant. So, yeah, that's actually pretty interesting tell by the books there, given that number.
Right?
Yeah. Fishy.
It's fishy.
Yeah.
This one's tough. I don't have a conclusion here. I'm glad you didn't make it Simon Says. It's definitely not.
I need time on it too, because I'm with you. This is the tough game. Tough game.
Really tough game. What do you think of the total? The total right now is 51.5. Feels high to me.
I know, under. So I don't want to give it away, but once again, I'm on 3 unders and 1 over. So yeah, last week I couldn't find an over I liked. Even though Chad almost scared me off my Rams bet because the luck over. But
yeah,
once we got so many unders, I was like, no, everyone's just so tight right now in the playoffs, and teams are just not forcing the ball enough. And I feel like the refs have been calling a lot of penalties. I don't know about you, but it feels like the refs too have been more involved in a lot of like not just holds, but a lot of stuff making the offenses kind of stagnate. That feels like we've had that with a bunch of games so far. So yeah, I know it sounds stupid because I'm betting an over of 55.5, but this one, 51.5, I have this at 48.5. So I think there's a ton of value on the under here, especially with these two teams that, it's going to be cold as hell up in Buffalo, Chad. This is going to be a tight game with 2 run-heavy teams. So I do like the clock to be running, this to be a low score.
I think it was the Bucks-Commanders game where, even though it was close a lot of the game and we had the Bucks, I didn't have that usual nervous pit in my stomach. And I think it's because the game just kept moving. Like, there weren't a lot of penalties. They just kept playing. It was a really good game and really good football. Really just enjoyed it. One of the rare moments when I did watching the NFL this year. And I think the fact there weren't a lot of penalties and it just kept rolling was a big part of it.
Yeah, it was a good one.
All right. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. And now, new Bet365 customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code FAVORITES. Deposit $10. Place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Simon and I will be back with the next episode of the Favorites on the Action Network YouTube page, 11 a.m. Eastern, Thursday, to narrow it down even further, expand the menu, whatever we're going to do on Thursday. Maybe we'll have more intel that makes us feel differently about the Bills and the Ravens, or the Chiefs and the Texans. Download us from Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars, say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Till next time, love you.